Right. So Bitcoin, it's been pretty crazy to watch it just explode past $67,000 in just 24 hours.
Yeah.
You sent over a ton of articles and analyses on this.
Yeah.
And I got to say,
Yeah.
it seems like there's way more to this than just, the usual crypto hype.
Oh, absolutely. This surge, it's really fascinating,
Yeah.
It kind of captures everything that's happening in the crypto world right now, all these different forces.
Okay.
Like a tiny snapshot of the whole market.
So you're saying, like this short period, this surge, it gives us like a clue to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Where Bitcoin might be going.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. One thing that really stood out to me was
Mm-hmm.
this $238 million liquidation event.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a huge amount of money to be liquidated so fast.
Right.
What's the story there?
So liquidations are they're really important if you want to understand how the derivatives market, especially with all the leverage,
Right.
how that can really mess with Bitcoin's price. It's like this. Traders borrow money to make these huge bets, right?
Mhm.
And if the market goes against them, their positions, they get automatically closed out to prevent even more losses.
Oh, okay.
And all that forced selling, it just throws gasoline on the fire.
Wow.
Drives the price down even faster and often triggers even more liquidations.
So it's like a chain reaction.
Exactly. It's not just people buying into the hype.
Right.
The market itself kind of creates this upward spiral through these chain reactions.
That's wild. So it's not just hype, it's the mechanics of the market itself.
Exactly. And that's why understanding open interest is so important,
Yeah.
Open interest, that's the total value of all the outstanding derivative contracts.
Got it.
It tells us how much leverage is being used and how big these swings could be.
Right.
We saw a record high open interest just before this surge. That means traders, they were getting ready for some serious action.
So everyone knew something big was coming, but not which way it would go. That's crazy. So even the experts are divided on what happens next. I mean, what are you seeing in the data? I mean, any clues?
Well, the long-short ratio, that measures how many traders are betting on price increases versus decreases, right?
Okay.
That was almost perfectly balanced right before the surge.
Really?
So even the pros, they were split right down the middle.
So we've got this surge happening, everyone's on edge,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's all this talk about Uptober, right?
Mm.
Like, is there really something to that? Does Bitcoin actually do well in October?
Well, historically, yeah, Bitcoin has often seen positive price movements in October.
Okay.
In fact, in 9 out of the last 11 years, Bitcoin has gone up in late October.
9 out of 11. Huh.
Yeah.
That's more than just a coincidence, right? Like, what could be driving that?
One theory is that it's tied to the Bitcoin halving cycle.
Okay.
This is a post-halving year, 2024, meaning the rate at which new Bitcoins are created, it gets cut in half.
Right.
Historically, this reduction in supply, it usually leads to higher prices because demand keeps growing while new supply shrinks.
Supply and demand, classic.
Yeah.
And of course, it's an election year in the U.S.
Right.
Does that play into it too?
It's interesting, in the last 2 U.S. election years, the fourth quarter, which includes October,
Right.
that's when Bitcoin really took off.
Wow. So we've got October, the post-halving effect, and the election all happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Could be a powerful combo. But let's zoom out a bit, look at the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Globally, inflation's still a huge worry. And now even, big investors like Paul Tudor Jones are talking about Bitcoin as a safe haven asset.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that?
Well, there's definitely a growing unease with the traditional financial systems,
Huh.
Inflation just eats away at the value of our money, and people are looking for alternatives.
Yeah, places to put their money that won't lose value.
Right. Bitcoin, with its limited supply and the fact that it's decentralized, it's
Yeah.
becoming more and more attractive as a way to protect yourself from all this economic uncertainty.
Especially with the Fed and all these interest rate decisions.
Exactly.
What could happen to Bitcoin if they decide to pause or even reverse the hikes?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
If the Fed eases up on its monetary policy, it could signal that things are shifting towards a more risk-on environment.
Okay.
And that could make assets like Bitcoin super appealing to investors. We could see a lot of money flooding into the crypto market.
Interesting. And it's not just regular folks taking notice anymore, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing these big institutions like BlackRock, Fidelity, they're all jumping into crypto.
Right.
And ETFs are becoming more and more popular. Can you explain what those are for people who might not know
Yeah.
and why they matter so much?
Sure. An ETF, an exchange-traded fund, it's basically a bundle of assets that you can trade on an exchange, just like a regular stock.
Okay.
But in this case, they hold Bitcoin, making it way easier for people to invest in it without having to buy and hold it themselves.
So that makes it more accessible to more people.
Exactly.
So all this institutional activity, is that a sign that Bitcoin's going mainstream, becoming more legitimate?
Absolutely. When these big players come in, they bring a lot of credibility with them.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, tons of money.
Right.
The launch of spot Bitcoin ETFs, that's been huge. It's opened the floodgates for a whole new wave of investment.
Makes sense. But, like with any new market, there's got to be challenges, right? The whole global regulatory landscape for crypto is still up in the air.
Right.
Some countries, like Hong Kong, they're embracing it, while others, like the U.S., are being much more cautious.
Yeah.
What are some of those key regulatory things that could really impact Bitcoin's future?
Well, you hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah.
Regulatory clarity, or the lack of it, can have a massive impact on Bitcoin's adoption and growth.
Okay.
You've got different countries taking different approaches,
Yeah.
some outright banning it, others being more open. It creates this messy, unpredictable global landscape, making it hard to tell how things will play out.
So high stakes, and a lot depends on how these regulatory battles shake out. But we can't forget about the technology itself, right? All the advancements happening within Bitcoin,
Right.
the Lightning Network, the Taproot upgrade, those are pretty big deals, right? Can you break those down for us? Like, what do they do and why do they matter for Bitcoin's future?
These technological advancements are crucial for Bitcoin to keep up in this crazy, fast-moving world of crypto.
Yeah.
Take the Lightning Network, for example.
Okay.
It addresses those scalability issues that Bitcoin's had, slow transactions, high fees.
Right.
It creates a second layer on top of the Bitcoin blockchain that allows for super fast and cheap transactions.
Yeah.
Imagine it like a network of payment channels that let users transact directly without having to wait for everything to be confirmed on the main blockchain.
So it's making Bitcoin more usable for everyday stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Taproot, that's a bit more technical, but it enhances Bitcoin's privacy and security, and it also improves its smart contract capabilities.
So it's like a multi-pronged upgrade.
Yeah, it simplifies things, makes transactions lighter and cheaper,
Okay.
and it opens the door for more sophisticated applications to be built on top of Bitcoin.
So it's not just about the price going up, it's about the technology getting better and more sophisticated.
Exactly.
And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's constantly changing. Bitcoin's always evolving.
Yeah.
It's trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Right, and that's what's so exciting to watch. Constant innovation. You never know what's coming next.
For sure. It really does feel like we're seeing this major shift happening in how finance works.
Yeah.
You mentioned how institutions getting involved is impacting things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about that. What does all this institutional money mean for the average investor, like someone listening to this right now?
Well, it's like a two-sided coin,
Okay.
On the one hand, it brings a lot of liquidity to the market, makes it more legitimate, easier for everyday people to get involved.
Right.
Like having ETFs available makes it much less intimidating. Right.
Yeah, it definitely lowers the barrier to entry.
Right. But on the other hand, you have to think about the potential downsides too.
Okay.
Like what happens when these huge institutions start holding a lot of Bitcoin? Their decisions could really swing the market.
That makes sense.
Smaller investors might end up at a disadvantage.
So it's exciting to see the big players coming in, but we got to be aware of the risks too.
Exactly.
Speaking of risks, we talked about the regulatory landscape a bit earlier, but I want to dig a little deeper into how Hong Kong and the U.S. are handling things so differently.
Okay.
Could you talk more about those different approaches?
Sure. So Hong Kong, they're really going all in on crypto, trying to become like a global hub.
Right.
They're creating a system that's really attractive to crypto businesses.
Mm-hmm.
They see the potential of blockchain, and they want to be at the forefront.
They're embracing it.
Totally. The U.S., though, they're being way more careful. Their focus is on protecting investors and making sure everyone follows the rules.
Yeah, I can see that.
They're worried about things like, financial instability, illegal stuff happening with crypto.
Right, right.
So they're moving more slowly.
So it's like a balancing act. They're trying to encourage innovation, but also make sure things are safe.
Exactly.
What should people be paying attention to as these regulatory landscapes keep changing?
Well, watch how these different approaches affect where money and talent go in the crypto world.
Okay.
Will we see a shift toward places like Hong Kong? Or will the U.S. find a way to balance their concerns with supporting innovation?
Yeah.
How this regulatory battle plays out will have a big impact on Bitcoin and the whole crypto market.
It's definitely a complex situation.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a bit and talk about the tech itself.
Okay.
We mentioned the Lightning Network and Taproot, but I want to make sure our listeners really understand what these changes mean. Can you explain in a little more detail how these technologies are fixing some of the problems that Bitcoin's had?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the big criticisms of Bitcoin has always been, the transaction speed.
Right.
It can be slow and the fees can get pretty high.
Right. Compared to some newer cryptocurrencies.
Exactly. That's where the Lightning Network comes in.
Okay.
It's like a layer built on top of the main Bitcoin blockchain.
Mm.
And it lets people make transactions super fast with really tiny fees.
So it's basically like a fast lane for Bitcoin transactions.
Yeah, you could say that.
Making it more practical for everyday use.
Exactly. And then you have Taproot. It's a bit more on the technical side, but it makes Bitcoin more private and efficient.
Okay.
And it also boosts its smart contract capabilities. It makes complex transactions simpler.
Yeah.
So they're lighter, cheaper to process.
And this paves the way for building even more complex stuff on top of Bitcoin.
Right. More sophisticated applications.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it, how much the crypto world has already changed.
Yeah.
And who knows what's coming next.
It really is. And it shows you how powerful innovation is, how determined the crypto community is.
But with things changing so fast,
Right.
it's easy to get lost in all the technical stuff and the market going up and down.
Hmm.
What do you think is the most important thing for our listeners to remember, as they're figuring all this out?
I think, at the end of the day, Bitcoin and crypto in general,
Yeah.
it's all about people.
Okay.
It's about people who want more control over their money,
Mhm.
developers who are pushing the limits of technology, and
Right.
communities coming together to build a future that's more decentralized, more fair.
That's a really good point. It's easy to get caught up in all the excitement and the idea of making a quick buck.
Yeah.
But this is really about giving power back to individuals,
Right.
creating a financial system that works for everyone.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so interesting, I think. It's not just about profits.
Yeah.
It's about being part of something bigger, something that could change the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time to be involved in this space.
Yeah, for sure. We're watching a whole new era of finance being born.
Totally. Well said. Well, I think it's about time to wrap up our deep dive into Bitcoin. It's been quite a ride exploring what's driving this surge, what's shaping the future of crypto.
It really has. It's been great talking about all this with you and with everyone listening.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this deep dive gives everyone a better understanding of how this complex world works.
We hope everyone keeps exploring, keeps asking questions, keeps learning.
Absolutely.
The crypto world is full of surprises, and we'll be here to help make sense of it all. Until next time, keep on diving deep.